The warm July breeze drifted through the open windows of the faculty lounge, carrying the scent of wet chalk and the distant hum of students out on the quad. Marina Miller held a cup of lukewarm coffee between her hands, but she didn't drink. Her gaze was fixed on the gold-embossed invitation sitting on the table, a piece of cardstock that felt like it weighed a ton. The Atlantic Grand Hotel Summer Gala. Guest name Julia Bennett. Julia had been her best friend since college, the only person who still called to check in after everything fell apart. And it was Julia who had insisted that Marina take the invitation in her place, since Julia had to fly out suddenly to take care of her mother in Chicago. "It's just one night," Julia had said. "A chance to get out of that suffocating apartment, to wear something beautiful, to remember that the world still exists beyond walls covered in books and the literature classes Marina taught on autopilot." Marina didn't want to go, but she also didn't want to stay home alone on another Saturday night, listening to the silence scream Ryan's words back at her. "You're boring, Marina. You're not enough of a woman. No one will ever want you the way you are." So there she was, 3 hours later, standing at the entrance of the Atlantic Grand Hotel, wearing a navy blue dress she'd borrowed from Julia that was a size smaller than it should have been. The historic building glowed under strategic lighting, its imposing Art Deco facade striking against the starry Charleston sky. Elegant couples walked in arm, women with jewelry that outshone the stars, men in suits who looked like they were born knowing exactly who they were. Marina clutched her purse against her side and climbed the marble steps. The lobby was everything she had imagined: crystal chandeliers, polished floors, the clinking of glasses and refined conversation floating through the air. A pianist played something classical she vaguely recognized from art history classes. Everything was perfect. Everything was intimidating. She showed her invitation to the host, who examined it with a professional gaze and pointed toward the grand ballroom. Marina took a deep breath and walked in, feeling the dress tighten even more as she held her breath. The ballroom was spectacular. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed the dark sea outside, dotted with the lights of distant boats. Round tables decorated with tropical floral arrangements filled the space, and a massive buffet stretched along the side wall. Marina grabbed a glass of champagne from a passing tray and tried to look natural, as if she belonged there. She didn't, and everyone there seemed to know it. She was on her third glass, trying to blend into a group discussing real estate investments without understanding a single word, when she felt a firm hand on her shoulder. She turned around and found a security guard in a black suit, burly and serious. "Mom, would you mind coming with me, please?" Marina's heart dropped. She set her glass on a nearby table with hands that were starting to shake. "Is there a problem? It's just a routine check. Please follow me." Heads began to turn toward her. Marina felt her face burn. She followed the guard to the ballroom entrance, where a woman in her 50s, her hair pulled back into an impeccable bun and wearing a red blazer, was waiting with a clipboard. "Good evening. I'm Celia Anderson, the event coordinator. Your name, please." "Marina Miller." "But the invitation is in the name of—" "Julia Bennett," Celia finished, checking something on her clipboard. "Right. Julia Bennett called me 2 hours ago to say she couldn't make it and would be sending someone in her place. Do you have any identification?" Marina fumbled through her purse, trying to ignore the whispers around her. She handed over her ID. Celia examined it with excessive calm, comparing the photo to Marina's face. "I see. The problem, Marina, is that this event is exclusive to associate members and their direct guests. Invitation transfers are not permitted without prior authorization, which was never requested." "But Julia said—" "What Julia said doesn't matter. The rules are clear. You understand the delicate position this puts me in, don't you?" Marina felt tears threatening to spill over. Not here. Not in front of all these people who were already looking at her like an intruder, a fraud. She was exactly what Ryan always said. Inadequate. "I understand. I'll leave. I think that's for the best." Marina had already turned away, ready to run from that place and never leave her house again, when a deep voice cut through the silence that had formed around them. "She's with me." Everyone turned. Marina did too. The man walking toward them was tall, likely in his 40s, with dark hair and silver at the temples, his broad shoulders filling out an impeccable charcoal suit. But it was his gaze that caught her. deep brown eyes, tired but steady. He moved with the quiet authority of someone used to being heard. "I'm sorry, Mr. Carter," Celia intervened, her tone shifting completely. "I didn't realize the young lady was your guest." "There must have been a mix-up with the names on the list," he replied, stopping beside Marina and offering his arm in a gesture that left no room for argument. "I can settle this now if necessary." "No, that won't be necessary." "Of course not," Celia hurried, forcing a smile. "Enjoy your evening." The security guard had already backed away. People returned to their conversations, the moment of tension dissolving like sugar in water. Celia gave a small bow and disappeared among the guests. Marina stood there, paralyzed, looking at the man who had just saved her from the greatest humiliation of her life. "Are you okay?" he asked, with a kindness that didn't match the authority he'd shown seconds ago. Yes. Thank you. You didn't have to do that." "I think I did." He gave a half smile, and Marina noticed the fine lines around his eyes. "This party is unbearable. You gave me a good excuse to step away for a few minutes. I'm Lucas, by the way, Lucas Carter. Marina Miller. Nice to meet you, Marina." He pointed toward the glass doors leading to the balcony. "Want to get some air?" "I think we both deserve it." She should have said no. She should have thanked him and left just as she'd planned. But there was something in the way he looked at her. No judgment. No pity. Just a shared sense of exhaustion. That made her nod. The balcony was an immediate relief. The fresh sea air pushed away the suffocating heat of the ballroom. There were a few couples scattered about, but no one paid attention as Lucas and Marina approached the stone railing overlooking the ocean. "So," Lucas began, leaning his elbows on the railing, "what is a literature teacher doing at a corporate gala?" Marina looked at him, surprised. "How do you know I'm a teacher?" "Deduction. You look far too uncomfortable to be here by choice, which means you came in someone else's place. You're wearing a borrowed dress, which suggests you don't frequent these kinds of events. And you have a way of analyzing the people around you as if you're dissecting characters in a book. Literature teacher was my best guess." Marina couldn't help a genuine smile, her first in months. "You nailed it. It happens sometimes." He looked out at the sea. "I'm an architect, and I didn't want to be here either." "Then why did you come?" "Social obligations, clients, the expectation that I'll circulate and smile at people I barely know." He ran a hand through his hair. "Sometimes it's easier to show up than to deal with the questions about why you didn't." Marina understood perfectly. She knew that pressure well, the need to fake normalcy when everything inside was falling apart. They stood in silence for a few moments, just watching the ebb and flow of the waves. "Can I ask why you really came?" Lucas tried gently, "because I have a feeling it wasn't just to do a favor for a friend." Marina gripped the strap of her purse. She didn't know why she was about to tell the truth to a complete stranger. But the words came out before she could stop them. "I wanted to prove to myself that I could leave the house, that I could be around people without feeling invisible or inadequate, that maybe there's still a version of me that isn't the one my ex-boyfriend described when he broke up with me." The vulnerability of the confession hung between them. Marina waited for the awkwardness, the change of subject, the polite distancing that always came when she was too honest. Instead, Lucas turned to face her fully. He was wrong. "What?" "Your ex. He was wrong. About you. You don't even know me. I know enough." Lucas kept his gaze steady. "I know you're brave enough to come to a place where you don't feel comfortable because you want to change. I know you're honest because you just admitted your insecurities to someone you met 5 minutes ago. And I know you matter because a good friend lent you a valuable invitation and a beautiful dress just so you could have this night." Marina felt a lump in her throat. No one had spoken to her like that since. Maybe ever. Before she could respond, the music from the ballroom changed. A soft waltz began to play, and Marina saw through the glass doors as couples moved toward the dance floor. "Do you dance?" Lucas asked, extending his hand. "It's been a long time for me too, but I think we can both pretend we know what we're doing." Marina looked at his outstretched hand and hesitated for a second. Accepting meant taking a risk. Accepting meant choosing to feel when spending months numb, had been so much safer. But then she saw Lucas's eyes again, and there was something there she recognized. Loneliness, weariness, and maybe, just maybe, the same flicker of hope she felt sparking in her own chest. Marina placed her hand in his. Lucas's hand was warm and firm, and as he led her back into the ballroom, Marina felt as if she were floating. The dance floor was crowded with couples moving in perfect sync, but Lucas found a space near the windows where the moonlight mingled with the glow of the chandeliers. He pulled her close, one hand holding hers, the other resting lightly on her waist. Marina placed her free hand on his shoulder, feeling the solid fabric of his suit under her fingers. They began to move slowly, finding the rhythm of the music. "Relax," Lucas whispered, noticing the tension in her shoulders. "No one is looking at us." But Marina knew some people were. She could feel the curious glances, especially from Celia Anderson, who watched them from afar with an unreadable expression. But strangely, it didn't matter anymore, because in Lucas's arms, for the first time in months, she didn't feel small. "You're better at this than you let on," Marina commented as he spun her gently. "My mother insisted on dance lessons when I was a teenager. She said every man should know how to lead a woman with respect." He smiled, but there was a melancholy deep in his eyes. She was right about a lot of things. Was she? Lucas didn't answer immediately. The music continued, and they danced, and Marina realized he was deciding how much to reveal. "My mother passed away 3 years ago, and my wife 2 years ago." The revelation fell between them like a stone in still water. Marina stumbled slightly, but Lucas caught her, keeping the rhythm. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "Me too." He pulled her a little closer, as if he needed the proximity to keep talking. "It was an accident. She was driving back from a doctor's appointment in Mount Pleasant when a driver ran a red light. It was instant," they said. She didn't suffer. Marina didn't know what to say. All words felt inadequate in the face of such profound pain. So she just squeezed his hand, a silent gesture of understanding. "That's why you didn't want to be here tonight," Marina stated, not as a question, but as a recognition. "Beatrice loved these parties. She was an architect too. We worked together. She knew half the people here." Lucas looked around the room as if he were seeing ghosts among the guests. "But without her it all feels empty. Mechanical. I come because it's expected, because I have a firm to run, projects to win, a life to pretend is still functioning. But it's not functioning. Not like it should." He met her eyes again. "I wake up, I work, I go home, I sleep. Repeat. Some days are better than others. Some days I almost forget there's a giant hole where something vital used to be." Marina understood perfectly. That was exactly how she felt after Ryan. Waking up not because she wanted to, but because her body insisted. Teaching, not because she loved it, but because she had bills to pay. Existing without really living. The music ended and couples began to separate, some leaving the floor, others waiting for the next song. Lucas and Marina stayed still holding hands, as if letting go would break some fragile spell. "Want to get out of here?" Lucas asked suddenly. "I know a place near the beach. Nothing fancy, just a shack that makes the best street tacos on the coast, and we can talk without having to shout over the music." Marina thought of all the reasons she should say no. It was a Saturday night, it was past 10, and she barely knew this man. Julia would be worried. She had papers to grade tomorrow. It was reckless. But then she remembered how she felt when Celia humiliated her, how Lucas saved her, how he looked at her not with pity but with recognition. And she remembered the promise she made to herself when she agreed to come to this party, to try to live again. "Let's go," she said. They left discreetly, avoiding the goodbyes that would draw attention. Lucas got his keys from the valet and led Marina to a dark, elegant car parked in front of the hotel. He opened the door for her before walking around to the driver's side. As they drove along the coastal boulevard, the windows cracked slightly to let in the salty breeze. Marina watched Lucas's profile illuminated by the streetlights. There was a firmness in his jaw, but also a vulnerability in the lines around his eyes. "Why did you save me back there?" Marina asked. "You could have ignored it. Most people would have." Lucas kept his eyes on the road, but a small smile touched his lips. Because I recognized that look on your face. The look of someone about to fall apart but refusing to do it in public. I've been there, and someone helped me once when I needed it most. I figured it was time to pay it back to the universe. Who helped you? A friend. Daniel. He showed up at my door 3 months after the accident, when I had stopped taking calls and answering texts. He literally broke the door down because I wouldn't answer the bell. He sat with me on the living room floor for hours, didn't say a word, just stayed there. And when I finally broke down, he was still there. He's a good friend. The best. Lucas turned onto a smaller street, where the houses gave way to seaside restaurants and bars. He was the one who told me I needed to start living again, even if it was just in small steps, even if it didn't make sense at first. They parked in front of a simple shack with plastic tables on the sand and string lights hanging from the wooden beams. The smell of fresh food and coffee hung in the air, mixed with the sound of waves crashing on the dark beach. It's not exactly the Atlantic Grand, Lucas joked as they walked to a secluded table. It's perfect, Marina replied, and she meant it. They ordered tacos and coffee, and as they waited, the conversation flowed with surprising ease. Marina talked about her literature classes, about how she tried to make bored teenagers fall in love with Fitzgerald and Plath. Lucas talked about his projects, about how architecture for him was never just about building structures, but about creating spaces where people could live out their stories. Beatrice always said every house tells the story of the people who live in it, Lucas explained, stirring his coffee. That a good architect doesn't impose their vision, but listens to what the client really needs, even when they don't know it themselves yet. She sounds like she was special. She was. Lucas looked at the gold wedding band he still wore on his left hand. We were too young when we got married, only 23. Everyone said it wouldn't work, that we were impulsive, but we made it work. 13 years together, and every day I woke up grateful to have her. Marina felt a pang of envy, not malicious but melancholy. Ryan and she had been together for 4 years, and she couldn't remember a single day where he made her feel like that. Special, chosen, enough. Your ex was an idiot, Lucas said suddenly, as if reading her thoughts. Excuse me? From what you told me earlier, about him. He was an idiot, or blind, or both. Marina laughed, a genuine sound that surprised her. I think he was just wrong for me. Or I was wrong for him. She sighed. He wanted someone more adventurous, more spontaneous, someone who didn't spend their weekends rereading 19th century novels. And what's wrong with that? Apparently everything. According to Ryan, I was predictable, boring. He said being with me was like reading the same book over and over, expecting a different ending. The words still hurt to say out loud, even after months. Marina saw Lucas's jaw tighten. He said that to hurt you, to make you feel small, because men like that need to diminish others to feel big themselves. Lucas leaned forward. Marina, some people read the same book multiple times because they find something new with every reading, because the story is good enough to be revisited. There is nothing wrong with you. How can you be so sure? Because I'm sitting here on a Saturday night with someone I met a few hours ago, and it's the most real conversation I've had in 2 years, because you're not pretending to be someone you're not, and because when you talk about literature, your eyes light up in a way that makes me want to listen to you for hours. Marina felt her face heat up. No one had ever said anything like that to her. Not Ryan, not anyone before him. Thank you, she whispered. They finished eating in a comfortable silence, then walked down to the water's edge. Marina took off her shoes and felt the cool sand between her toes. Lucas did the same, and they walked side by side along the deserted beach, hearing only the sound of the waves and the distant music from the bars. You know what the hardest part is? Lucas asked after a while. It's not the loneliness itself. It's remembering what it was like not to be alone, what it was like to have someone to share the little things with. Breakfast, a bad joke, the comfortable silence at the end of the day. Marina stopped walking. She turned to him, and in the faint moonlight she saw the raw pain on his face. You'll find that again, she said with conviction. Maybe not in the same way, but you'll find it. How do you know? Because you're still here, you're still trying, you still showed up at that party even though you didn't want to. That means you haven't given up. Lucas looked at her for a long moment, and then, slowly, He reached out and brushed a strand of hair that the wind had blown across Marina's face. The touch was soft, almost hesitant, and it made her heart race. "Can I take you home?" he asked, his voice husky. Marina nodded, not trusting her own voice. The drive back was quiet, but not uncomfortable. When Lucas pulled up in front of Marina's building, he turned to her. "Thank you for today, for reminding me that there are still good conversations and interesting people in the world. Thank you for saving me. And for the tacos," Marina smiled. "And for the talk. Can I call you, or is that too weird considering how we met?" Marina took his phone and typed in her number. "It's not weird, it's just unexpected. Sometimes the unexpected is good." She got out of the car, but before she closed the door, Lucas called her name. "Marina, yes, you're not boring or inadequate or anything else," he said. "You're exactly who you should be." Marina felt tears threatening again, but this time they were from gratitude, not pain. She waved one last time and went into the building, climbing the stairs to her apartment with her heart still pounding. Inside the quiet apartment, she kicked off her shoes and flopped onto the sofa, still processing everything that had happened. Her phone buzzed with a text. It was Lucas. "I'm home. Good night. Literature teacher. Thank you for a memorable night." Marina smiled at the screen, her fingers hovering over the keyboard before she replied. "Good night, architect. Thank you for reminding me that I still know how to smile." She turned off her phone and lay back, staring at the ceiling. For the first time in months, she didn't feel empty. She felt something like hope budding in her chest, fragile as a new sprout, but undeniably alive. And when she finally fell asleep, it was without tears, just the ghost of a smile on her lips. The following days unfolded in a strange succession of normalcy and anticipation. Marina went back to her usual routine, waking up early, preparing lessons, grading endless essays on the books she tried to make her students love. But now there was something different, an underlying current of expectation that made even the most monotonous tasks more bearable. Lucas and she exchanged messages. Nothing extravagant, just small fragments of the day. He sent photos of projects in progress, facades taking shape, empty spaces transforming into homes. Marina shared book quotes that touched her, small observations about her students, the way the afternoon sun hit the faculty lounge window. It was on Thursday that he called. "I have tickets for an exhibit at the City Museum of Art on Saturday. Contemporary art, nothing too formal. I thought you might like to go, if you're free, of course." Marina was grading exams when the phone rang, but she dropped her pen immediately. Her heart raced in that way she thought she'd forgotten how to feel. "I'd love to. Great. Can I pick you up at 3? "Perfect." She hung up and stared at the phone, a silly smile on her face. Julia, who had returned from Chicago 2 days earlier, was going to freak out when she heard. Julia freaked out. "Marina, you went out with a man you met at a party less than a week ago, and now you're going on a real date with him? Who are you and what did you do with my friend who takes 3 months to decide if she's going to reply to a message on a dating app?" They were in Marina's living room, Julia sitting on the sofa while Marina rummaged through her closet, looking for something that wasn't too casual, but wasn't too dressy. "I can't explain it," Marina admitted, pulling out a blouse and holding it against her body before discarding it. "There's just something about him, Ju. Like he understands me without me having to explain. Like we're speaking the same language." Julia crossed her legs, studying her friend closely. "You're glowing, like literally radiant. I haven't seen you like this in years." "It's scary," Marina confessed, sitting on the bed surrounded by clothes. "Because every time I start to feel good, I remember Ryan and how everything fell apart. And I think, what if it happens again? What if I'm not enough again?" Julia stood up and sat beside her, taking her hand. "Marina, look at me. Ryan was an insecure jerk who needed to put you down to feel superior. You know that, right? Your therapist told you that 1,000 times. I know. But knowing doesn't make it hurt less. But it should give you the courage to try again. Because you deserve someone who really sees you, Marina. Someone who understands that you don't need to be fixed or changed." Julia squeezed her hand. "And if this Lucas is that person, or even if he isn't, at least you're living. You're taking a risk. That's already a victory." Marina hugged her friend, feeling gratitude tighten her chest. "Thank you for lending me that invitation." Julia laughed. Best thing I ever did. Now help me pick an outfit because this date isn't going to dress itself. Saturday arrived with a flawless blue sky and a gentle breeze that carried the scent of the ocean. Marina chose dark jeans and a wine-colored blouse, simple but elegant. She pulled her hair into a low ponytail and applied subtle makeup. When Lucas rang the bell at exactly 3 o'clock, she took 3 deep breaths before opening the door. He was wearing beige chinos and a light blue shirt, his hair slightly tousled by the wind. And when he smiled upon seeing her, Marina felt that familiar tightening in her chest. "You look beautiful," he said. "You too. I mean, you look good. Handsome." Marina felt her face heat up. "Shall we go before I say anything else stupid?" Lucas laughed, and it was a good, genuine sound. "Let's go." The exhibit at the museum was intriguing. A collection of works exploring the relationship between nature and urbanization. Lucas moved between the pieces with an analytical eye, pointing out details of composition and use of space that Marina wouldn't have noticed on her own. She, in turn, focused on the emotions the works evoked, the implicit narratives. "You see stories in everything," Lucas observed as they stopped before an installation, showing tree roots growing through cracked concrete. "It's a professional habit." Marina tilted her head. "To me, this isn't just about nature versus concrete. It's about resilience, about how life finds a way even when every obstacle says it's impossible." Lucas was silent for a moment, studying the work with a new perspective. "I never thought of it that way. But you're right, that's exactly what it is." They spent nearly 2 hours at the museum talking about art, architecture, literature, and life. The conversation flowed so naturally that Marina forgot to be nervous, forgot to analyze every word before saying it. With Lucas, she could just be. After the exhibit, they walked to a nearby restaurant Lucas knew, a cozy place overlooking the North Bay. They sat at a table near the window, where they could see the boats passing and the Ravenel Bridge in the distance. It was during dinner, between risotto and white wine, that the conversation took a deeper turn. "Can I ask you something?" Marina started, swirling the wine in her glass. "About your wife. If it's too personal, you can ignore it." Lucas set his fork down, but he didn't look uncomfortable. "You can ask. You still wear your ring, and that's fine, don't get me wrong. But I wonder if that keeps you tied to the past in some way." Lucas looked at the ring, unconsciously spinning it on his finger. "It's a fair question." He sighed. "I don't know the right answer, to be honest. Sometimes I wear it because I forgot to take it off. It became a habit. Other times I wear it because I don't feel ready to let go yet, as if taking it off would be betraying her memory somehow. But you know it isn't, right? That you can honor her memory and still move forward?" "I know." "Here," he touched his forehead, "but here." He placed his hand over his heart. "I'm still learning." Marina reached her hand across the table, and Lucas took it, interlacing their fingers. "There's no rush," she said softly. "Grief doesn't have a schedule." "And you?" Lucas stroked the back of her hand with his thumb. "Have you been able to let go of what Ryan did to you?" Marina thought about the question, really considering it. "I think I'm in the process. I still wake up some days and the first things I think of are the horrible things he said. That I'm dull, that I'd never be enough. But then I remember therapy, the talks with Julia, and now," she looked at Lucas, "now I remember you saying the opposite. And do you believe me or him? I'm trying to believe you. But the mind is a hard place to change sometimes. I understand perfectly." Lucas squeezed her hand. "But for what it's worth, Marina, I didn't say those things to be nice. I said them because they're true. You are fascinating, intelligent, genuine. And any man who doesn't see that is blind." Marina felt tears threatening, but they were good, warm tears. "Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for letting me see." They finished dinner in a mood of growing intimacy, sharing dessert and laughter, the barriers between them gradually dissolving. When they left, the night was cool and starry, and Lucas suggested a walk along the waterfront. They walked slowly, taking their time, enjoying the breeze and the distant sound of the city. At one point they passed an empty bench facing the sea, and Lucas gestured for them to sit. "There's something I want to tell you," he began, his tone serious. "About Beatrice, about the last few months before the accident." Marina waited, giving him space to find the words. We were trying to have a baby. For almost 2 years, she had gone through several treatments and nothing worked, and I saw her frustration growing, the way she blamed herself. Lucas looked out at the dark sea. On the day of the accident, she was coming back from another appointment, another negative result. And the last thing I said to her before she left was that it was okay, that we had time, that we could try again. You couldn't have known what was going to happen. I know. But I still wonder if she died thinking she had let me down. If she knew how much I loved her, with or without children. The pain in Lucas's voice was palpable, and Marina felt her own heart ache for him. She moved closer, resting her head on his shoulder. She knew, Marina said with conviction. You were together for 13 years. She knew. Lucas rested his head on hers, and they stayed like that for a while, just breathing together, two bruised hearts finding solace in each other's presence. When they finally stood up, Lucas held Marina's face between his hands, his eyes searching hers in the dim light. Can I kiss you? Marina could barely nod before he leaned in, touching his lips to hers. The kiss was soft, questioning, full of promise and hesitation. Marina felt the world disappear around them. There was only them, only that moment. When they pulled apart, both were breathless. Lucas rested his forehead against hers, smiling. Worth the wait, he whispered. Marina laughed, still dizzy. Definitely. He drove her home, and this time, when they said goodbye at her building door, the kiss was longer, more urgent. Marina floated up the stairs, her whole body vibrating with energy. Inside the apartment, she threw herself onto the sofa and grabbed her phone, calling Julia immediately. Julia, I think I'm in love. On the other end of the line, Julia screamed with joy, and Marina laughed, the sound echoing through the empty apartment. But for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel alone. The following weeks unfolded like a dream Marina didn't want to wake up from. Lucas and she saw each other whenever possible, fitting dates between her classes and his projects. Dinners that stretched late into the night, walks on the beach at sunset, lazy afternoons in cafes discussing everything from philosophy to the best pizza places in town. Marina discovered layers to Lucas she hadn't seen in that first meeting. She found out he was meticulous to a fault with his work, but surprisingly relaxed about everything else. That he had a dry sense of humor that caught her off guard and made her laugh until her stomach hurt. That he played the guitar poorly, but insisted on trying, making faces when he hit the wrong notes. Lucas discovered that Marina recited poetry out loud when she was cooking, that she had an absurd collection of bookmarks but always used whatever scrap of paper she found, and that when she was really concentrated, she bit her lower lip in a way he found irresistible. It was in the 3rd week, when Lucas invited her to see his office, that Marina began to understand the depth of his work. The office was in a restored building downtown, all high windows and exposed wooden beams. But what caught Marina's attention wasn't the technical drawings on the walls or the architectural models on the tables, but a massive board covered in photos at the back of the room. It's our social project, Lucas explained, guiding her to the board. We work with underserved communities, renovating houses, building community centers, daycares. We charge corporate clients to fund this work. Marina studied the photos, houses being built, children playing on new playgrounds, families smiling in front of renovated homes. It was Beatrice's idea, Lucas continued, and there was affection in his voice, not pain. She always said architecture couldn't just be for people with money, that everyone deserved to live with dignity in spaces that made them feel human. She was right, Marina said, lightly touching a photo of a colorful daycare. This is incredible, Lucas. You're making a real difference. Lucas ran a hand through his hair, a gesture Marina had learned meant he was uncomfortable with praise. I'm trying. Some days it's hard to find motivation, but then I see these photos and remember why I started. It was Marina's turn to hold his hand. She would be proud of you for continuing her work. I hope so. They spent the afternoon in the office, Lucas showing her projects and Marina asking questions, genuinely interested. When they left, it was already getting dark, and Lucas suggested dinner at his place. Lucas's house was exactly what Marina would have imagined. modern but welcoming, all clean lines and natural light with carefully selected artwork on the walls. But what surprised her was how there were still feminine touches everywhere. Colorful pillows on the sofa, plants in the windows, photos of Lucas and Beatrice at various moments in their lives. Marina didn't comment, but Lucas noticed her gaze. "I know what you're thinking," he said as he prepared the pasta for dinner in the kitchen, "that I haven't moved her things, that the house feels like a shrine." "I wasn't thinking that," Marina lied gently. "Yes, you were, and you're right." Lucas sighed, leaning his hands on the counter. "My therapist says the same thing. That keeping everything the same is a way of not processing the loss. But every time I think about changing something, getting rid of something of hers, it feels like I'm erasing her." Marina walked over, standing beside him. "You don't have to erase her to move forward, but maybe putting some things away, not necessarily getting rid of them, just reorganizing, could help. Creating a space that is yours, not both of yours. You're right." He turned to her, taking her hands. "I'm sorry. It must be strange for you, being here surrounded by ghosts of my past. It's not strange. It's part of who you are." Marina touched his face. "I don't expect you to erase 13 years of your life. I just hope there's room for me too. Eventually." "There is room," Lucas assured her, kissing her forehead. "More than you can imagine." They had dinner talking about everything and nothing, then settled onto the sofa, Maya curled up against Luke's chest as they watched an architecture documentary she pretended to understand. In reality, she was just soaking in his warmth, the steady rhythm of his breathing, and the way he absent-mindedly played with her hair. The bubble burst when Maya's phone rang. She looked at the screen and her blood ran cold. "Ryan, are you going to answer that?" Luke asked, feeling the immediate tension in her body. "No." Maya silenced the phone. "I have nothing to say to him." But Ryan called again and again. On the fourth call, Maya answered, her voice sharp with irritation. "What do you want, Ryan?" His voice was exactly as she remembered, filled with a fake concern that used to confuse her. "Maya, please don't hang up. I just want to talk. We have nothing to talk about." Maya was aware of Luke watching her, but she kept her voice steady. "You made that pretty clear when you broke up with me. I made a mistake, a terrible mistake. I've been thinking about you every day, about us." Maya felt the anger rising. "There is no us, Ryan. There hasn't been for 4 months. I know I hurt you, and I'm sorry, but we can try again. We can fix this. There's nothing to fix because I don't want this anymore." Maya took a deep breath. "You spent 4 years making me feel small, inadequate, like I was never enough, and you know what I found out? The problem was never me. It was you. It was always you." "Maya, don't be like that. We were good together." "No, we weren't. You were cruel, and I let it happen because I didn't know I deserved better. But now I do." "Are you with someone?" Ryan's voice turned sharp, accusatory. "Is that why you replaced me that fast?" Maya looked at Luke, who was watching with concern but didn't interfere. "This isn't about anyone else, Ryan. It's about me. It's about finally valuing myself enough not to accept crumbs. Now please don't call me again, don't text, don't show up, it's over." She hung up before he could respond and turned the phone off completely, her hands shaking. Luke pulled her into his arms immediately. "Are you okay?" "Yes." "No." Maya leaned her forehead against his chest. "I just didn't expect that." After months of silence, he just calls like nothing happened. "You were incredible," Luke said firmly. "The way you spoke to him, how you stood up for yourself. I was so proud of you." Maya lifted her head to look at him. "You were?" "Very." He touched her face. "Because I know how hard it is to face the past, and you did it with such strength." Maya felt tears fall, but they were tears of relief, not sadness. "Thank you for being here, for not judging." Luke kissed her forehead, her cheeks, and finally her lips. A sweet, comforting kiss. Always. That night, Maya slept at Luke's house for the first time, curled up in his arms in the king-sized bed he had once shared with someone else. But strangely, she didn't feel out of place. She felt safe, like she finally belonged somewhere. The next morning, she woke up to the smell of coffee and found Luke in the kitchen making breakfast. He smiled when he saw her wearing one of his shirts, and Maya realized she was in love. Not in a desperate or dependent way, but in a calm, certain way, like her heart had finally found a home. May arrived, bringing with it a subtle shift in the air, the first real signs of spring beginning to bloom across the city. Maya was in her classroom, finishing a discussion on The Great Gatsby with her juniors, when the principal appeared at the door. "Maya, can I talk to you for a second?" She dismissed the students for lunch and walked over. "What's up, Karen?" Karen, a woman in her late 50s with graying hair and kind eyes, smiled. "I'm organizing a special presentation for Mother's Day. The students are going to present poems and essays they've written about important maternal figures in their lives. I thought you could coordinate it. You have a special gift for getting these teenagers to connect with literature." Maya felt a warmth in her chest. "It would be an honor." "Great. We'll do it Friday night in the auditorium. You can invite whoever you'd like." Maya immediately thought of Luke. They had been together for nearly 2 months, and she still hadn't officially introduced him to any major part of her life, just as he hadn't introduced her to his closest friends yet. It felt like the right time. That night, when Luke picked her up for dinner, she mentioned the event. "Is it important to you?" he asked, driving toward their favorite bistro. "Very. These students mean a lot to me, and it would be special if you were there." Luke took her hand and squeezed it. "Then I'll be there. I wouldn't miss it for the world." The week passed in a whirlwind of preparation. Maya worked with the students, helping them refine their writing and find their voices. There was one girl, Bella, who was particularly shy and had written something beautiful about the grandmother who raised her. Maya spent extra hours with her, helping her gain the confidence to perform. On Friday night, the auditorium was packed. Parents, families, teachers, everyone gathered to celebrate. Maya waited backstage, nervous not for the performance, but because she knew Luke was in the audience. As the curtain opened and the students began their presentations, Maya felt pride swell in her chest. They were magnificent, every single one of them. And when Bella took the stage, her voice shaky at first but gaining strength with every verse, Maya had to blink back tears. At the end, when all the students were on stage for the final bow, the principal called Maya forward. None of this would be possible without the tireless dedication of Ms. Maya Albright, who believes in every one of these young people and teaches them not just about literature, but about humanity. The applause was deafening. Maya looked out into the crowd and found Luke in the third row, clapping with a smile that lit up his entire face. In that moment, seeing him there, proud of her, present for something that mattered, Maya felt everything click into place. After the show, as parents and students mingled in the lobby over coffee and juice, Luke approached her. "You were amazing," he said, pulling her into a hug. "The way you worked with those kids, how you helped them shine, it was beautiful to watch. You really liked it?" "I loved it. And now I completely understand why you love what you do. You're not just teaching books, Maya, you're changing lives." Maya introduced Luke to some colleagues and students, and he charmed everyone with his genuine kindness and real interest in their stories. Bella, the shy girl, was especially impressed when Luke asked about her grandmother and listened intently to every word. By the time they finally left, it was past 10. Luke didn't drive toward Maya's apartment, but toward his house. "I have a surprise for you," he said with a mysterious smile. When they arrived, Luke took Maya's hand and led her inside. Immediately, she noticed the changes. The photos of Sarah, which had been scattered everywhere before, were now organized in a single corner of the living room on a beautiful but discreet shelf. The furniture had been slightly rearranged, creating a different flow. There were fresh flowers in a vase on the coffee table. Luke watched her reaction anxiously. "I didn't get rid of anything," he explained quickly. "I just reorganized. I created a space for her memory, but I also created space for the present, for us." Maya felt tears spill over. "Luke, this is too late, too soon." He looked vulnerable, unsure. "Perfect." Maya hugged him tight. "It's perfect." They sat on the sofa, now positioned to face the window with a view of the city lights. Luke brought out some wine and chocolate, and they sat talking about the night, the students, and how small moments could hold so much beauty. "There's something I want to tell you," Luke started after a while, "about a new project. Tell me." "I got a proposal to design a beach house, a big one, on an incredible lot in the Outer Banks. The client wants something sustainable integrated with nature. He paused. It's the kind of project Sarah and I always dreamed of doing together. That sounds wonderful. It is, but it's also scary, because it'll be the first major project I do completely on my own, without her, without being able to bounce ideas off her, without her perspective. Luke looked at Maya, and I was thinking, maybe you could come with me to see the site. Bring your vision of stories and spaces. It doesn't have to be anything official. I just want your company. Maya took his hand. I'd love to go. Really? You don't have to. I want to, Luke. I want to be a part of this. I want to be a part of your life. He pulled her into a deep kiss, full of promise and relief. When they pulled apart, he rested his forehead against hers. You're already a part of my life, Maya, more than you know. They spent the rest of the night planning the trip to the Outer Banks, Luke showing her photos of the lot on his laptop, while Maya asked questions and suggested ideas that made him laugh and jot things down. It was easy, natural, the kind of partnership Maya didn't even know could exist. It was almost midnight when Luke's phone rang. He looked at the screen and frowned. Sorry, I need to take this. It's Dan, my best friend. He never calls this late unless it's important. Luke answered and stepped away. Maya couldn't hear the whole conversation, but she saw his expression change. Surprise, then something like pure joy. When he hung up, he was smiling in a way she had never seen before. Dan's engaged. He's getting married in August, and he wants me to be his best man. Luke, that's wonderful. It is. He pulled her into a hug. Dan was the one who saved me when everything fell apart, the one who dragged me back to life. And now he's building his own family, and he wants me to be a part of it. Of course he does. Because you're important to him, just like he is to you. Luke stepped back to look into her eyes. Maya, I want you to come with me. To the wedding, as my official date. I want you to meet Dan and Laura and my other friends. I want them to meet you. Maya felt her heart race. Are you sure? I mean, they were friends with you and Sarah. Won't it be weird? Maybe for some. But Dan already knows about you. I've told him. And he's dying to meet you. He's happy for me, for us. Then yes, I'll go. They kissed again, and this time Maya felt more than just desire. She felt commitment. The sense that they were building something real, something lasting. Later, lying in bed, Maya traced idle patterns on Luke's chest. You know what my therapist told me in our last session? She asked into the dark. What? That sometimes we need to fall completely apart to be rebuilt the right way, that the cracks are where the light gets in. Luke kissed the top of her head. Your therapist is wise, and she's right. We were both broken, each in our own way, but maybe that's why we fit so well, because we understand that perfection is an illusion, that what matters is the willingness to try, even when it hurts. Maya snuggled closer. I'm glad we found each other at that party. I'm glad you saved me. I didn't save you, Maya. We saved each other. And that night, surrounded by the gentle darkness and the distant sound of the city, they slept in peace, two scarred hearts beating in sync, creating a new story together. The trip to the Outer Banks happened on a Friday in June. Luke picked Maya up early, the car already packed for the weekend. The sky was overcast, promising rain, but neither of them cared. There was an anticipation in the air, a feeling that something important was about to happen. During the drive, they talked about everything. Luke told stories about being a kid and spending summers at the beach with his parents. Maya talked about the book she was rereading, The Bell Jar, and how literature always made her feel less alone. When they finally reached the site, Maya understood immediately why Luke was so excited. It was a piece of paradise, a high bluff with a view of the ocean on one side and green dunes on the other. The sound of the waves was constant and comforting, and the smell of salt and damp earth filled the air. It's perfect, Maya whispered, stepping out of the car. Luke stood beside her, hands in his pockets, surveying the space with an architect's eye. I'm thinking of something integrated, glass and wood that blends into the landscape instead of dominating it. Full sustainability, solar panels, rainwater harvesting. It sounds incredible. They spent over an hour walking the lot, Luke pointing out where he imagined each part of the house, Maya offering perspectives on how the spaces could tell stories and create memories. It was a natural collaboration, and Maya realized Luke truly valued her opinions, taking notes on the ideas she suggested. Later, they drove to the inn where they were staying, a charming place right on the water. The room was simple but cozy, with a balcony that looked straight out at the sea. "Want to hit the beach?" Luke suggested after they settled in. They walked along the wet sand, holding hands, watching the sun try to break through the clouds. There were few people around, just a couple of surfers and an elderly couple walking a dog. "You know what I realized?" Maya said suddenly. "I haven't thought about Ryan once in the last few weeks. I used to think about him every day, letting his words echo in my head. But now, it's like he's part of another life. He is part of another life." Luke stopped and turned to her. "You're not the same person you were when you were with him. You grew, you healed, you found your strength. With your help." "No, Maya. You did that on your own. I was just lucky enough to be here to witness it." Maya leaned in and kissed him, right there in the middle of the beach, not caring who might be watching. Because she finally understood something fundamental. She didn't need Luke to be whole. She was already whole. But she chose to share that wholeness with him. That night, they had dinner at a local spot, eating fresh seafood and laughing at the crazy stories about Dan that Luke shared. Maya watched the way Luke laughed, relaxed in a way she hadn't seen before, and felt gratitude for this moment, for this person and for this life they were building together. Back at the inn, they sat on the balcony with wine, watching the moon reflect on the dark water. "Maya," Luke began, his voice serious, "there's something I need to do, and I want you to be here when I do it." He pulled something out of his pocket. It was his wedding ring. Maya held her breath. "I loved Sarah with every fiber of my being," Luke began, his voice thick with emotion. "And I will always love her memory, what she meant to me, the years we had together. But she's gone. And before she died, she made me promise something." She grabbed my hand in the hospital after the accident, in those few minutes we had before the doctors said there was nothing left to do. And she said, "Live, Luke. Promise me you'll live. Not just exist, but really live. Love again. Be happy again." Tears were streaming down Maya's face. I promised her, but I couldn't keep it for 2 years. Until you. Luke held Maya's hand. "You made me remember what it's like to feel, what it's like to laugh without forcing it, what it's like to wake up and actually want to be awake. And today, in this beautiful place, with you by my side, I finally feel ready." With deliberate movements, Luke took the ring off his finger. He held it for a moment, looking at the gold band he had carried for 15 years. "Thank you, Sarah," he whispered into the night, "for teaching me how to love, for making me promise to keep going, for giving me permission to live." And then, with Maya watching, Luke walked to the edge of the balcony. For a moment, Maya thought he might throw the ring into the sea, but instead, he carefully placed it in a small box he had brought with him. "I'm going to keep it," he explained, coming back to Maya, along with the photos and the memories. "But I'm not going to carry it with me anymore, because I'm ready to carry something else, hope, a future, a new love." Maya couldn't speak. She hugged Luke tightly, both of them crying, but they were tears of liberation, not loss. "Thank you," Maya finally managed to say, "for letting me be a part of this, for trusting me. Thank you for waiting, for understanding, for not demanding that I forget in order to love you." Luke pulled back to look into her eyes. "Because I love you, Maya. Completely. You need to know that. I love you too. So much." They kissed under the stars, and it was different from every kiss before. It was a promise, a new beginning, the first true moment of a future they would build together. The next morning, they woke up to the sun streaming through the open curtains. They had breakfast on the balcony, planning their day. Luke wanted to go back to the site for some final measurements. Maya suggested they visit the village afterward to check out the local craft shops. On the way back to the site, Luke pulled the car over at a scenic overlook. "I want to show you something." They got out and walked to the highest point, where they could see miles of coastline in both directions. It was breathtaking. "This is where I want to build not just a house, but a home," Luke said. "A place to create memories, to bring friends, where maybe one day, if you want, we can spend our summers together." Maya looked at him, seeing the future reflected in his eyes. "I want that. I want every day with you. The quiet mornings and the complicated nights. The architecture projects and the debates over books. I want to build something real with you." Luke smiled, that smile that lit up his whole face. "Then let's build it." They spent the rest of the weekend immersed in the simple joy of being together. They swam in the ocean even though the water was cold, laughing like kids when the waves knocked them over. They built a fire on the beach at night and roasted marshmallows while Luke played the guitar badly and Maya laughed. They talked about dreams, about fears, and about everything they wanted to do together. On Sunday, on the drive back to the city, the conversation turned practical. So, about Dan's wedding in August, Luke started. "I thought maybe we could head up a few days early, make a little trip out of it, see the area. The wedding is going to be at a farmhouse in upstate New York. That sounds wonderful. And after that, maybe we can think about where we want to be. You and me, as a couple." Luke hesitated, nervous. "I'm not saying we need to move in together right away or anything, but I want to know we're heading in the same direction." "We are," Maya assured him. "Completely. And you know what? I think I'm ready to take the next step, whatever that step means for us." Luke took her hand and brought it to his lips, kissing it gently. "We'll figure it out together." When they pulled up in front of Maya's building, neither of them wanted to say goodbye. They sat in the car for another half hour, just talking, delaying the moment of separation. Finally, Luke turned off the engine. "Come here." Maya leaned in and he kissed her slowly, savoring it. When they pulled apart, Luke opened the glove compartment and pulled out an envelope. He handed it to Maya. "What's this?" "Open it." Inside was a key. "It's the key to my house," Luke explained. "I want you to have it. I want you to know there's always a space for you there, that you're always welcome anytime. That house isn't just mine anymore, it's ours." Maya felt tears well up again. "Luke, I know it's early. I know we're still figuring things out, but I also know I love you and I want you in my life in every way possible. So please take the key, and when you're ready, maybe one day, you'll give me yours." Maya didn't have to think. She opened her purse and pulled out her keychain. She slid the spare key to her apartment off the ring and handed it to Luke. "I'm already ready." Luke took the key, his eyes shining. "Seriously?" "Seriously. Because you're right. It's not about where we live or how fast we go. It's about choosing, every single day, to be together. And I choose you, Luke. Every day." They kissed again, the kind of kiss that seals promises and creates futures. When they finally pulled apart, both were smiling through their tears. Maya got out of the car, but before closing the door, she leaned back in. "Hey, Luke. Yeah? Thanks for saving me at that party." Luke smiled. "Thanks for letting me." Maya went up to her apartment, Luke's key clutched in her hand. Inside, she placed it in a special spot on her bookshelf, right next to her favorite novels. She looked out the window and saw Luke's car still parked below. He was probably doing the same thing, just soaking in the moment. Her phone buzzed with a text. "I miss you already, I'll be dreaming of you." Maya smiled and typed back, "Me too, see you tomorrow, my love." She lay down that night, no longer feeling alone or inadequate or less than enough. She felt whole, she felt loved, she felt complete. And when she finally fell asleep, it was with a smile on her lips and the certainty that she hadn't found someone to complete her, but someone to overflow with. Someone to share not just the storms, but the rainbows that followed. Because in the end, true love wasn't about saving or being saved. It was about choosing every day to walk side by side. It was about honoring the past while building the future. It was about two imperfect people choosing to love despite the scars, or maybe because of them. Maya had fallen apart, and in the rebuilding, she had become stronger. Not because Luke fixed her, but because he loved her exactly as she was. And that, she discovered, made all the difference. The sun would rise tomorrow and there would be more challenges, more moments of doubt. More work to do on herself and the relationship. But for the first time in a long time, Maya was looking forward to the future, because she wasn't walking toward it alone anymore. And that, she thought before drifting off completely, was everything she had ever wanted. If Maya and Luke's journey touched your heart, you're not alone. We all carry scars. We've all felt inadequate. And we've all had to rebuild at some point. But as Maya discovered, the cracks are where the light gets in. And it's in the courage to try again that we find our true strength. If this story resonated with you, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more narratives that celebrate the resilience of the human heart. Let us know in the comments. Have you ever had to rebuild yourself after a loss? What was your journey like? We'd love to hear your story because every journey deserves to be told, and every heart deserves to know it's not alone. Until the next story. Keep believing in love, in yourself, and in the infinite capacity of the human heart to bloom again, even after the darkest storms.